Hello friends, and welcome to my channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Nate and I do a lot of reaction videos comparing the United States with pretty much the rest of the world. So if that's what you like to watch, just hit that subscribe button down below, hit the bell icon, and like this video. It really helps me out. Thank you very much. And in today's video, I'm going to be reacting to something that we all know exists, we all know the difference, and we all wonder why the United States just doesn't adopt the new system. Not a new system, adopts a different system. What I'm talking about is the metric system versus the imperial system of measurements, right? So this video, is the metric system actually better? We'll find out. I think so, even though I don't understand all of it. I do understand speed, some distances, but what really throws me off is weight or, sometimes measurements. I know 100 kilometers an hour is roughly 60 miles per hour. I got that down, but I weigh about 145 pounds. I have no idea what that is in kilograms. I know it's a lot less because a kilogram is heavier than a pound, but other than that, I really don't know. We also know that the metric system is based on tens, which makes it easier to convert things or to count things. But what else is there? So let's just jump into the video and see if the metric system is actually better.
This episode of Real Engineering is brought to you by Brilliant, a problem-solving website that teaches you to think like an engineer. The time has finally arrived. The comment section demanding imperial and metric units has gone on too long. There can only be one measurement system. The British imperial system, like everything British, is based on antiquated units of measurement, like measuring your country's importance by counting the number of countries you have invaded and pillaged. A measurement that made sense 100 years ago, but it's time to move on. Weirdly, the British have mostly moved on from this method of measurement, and it is instead Americans who insist on holding onto it. Well, America, Liberia, and Myanmar, a prestigious trio. Now, I can already hear the people who refuse to wear masks in the comments. There are two kinds of countries, those that use the metric system and those that landed on the moon. You know who led the design team for
I've heard of that before, and it's the most ridiculous argument in the world. I believe he's going to explain why. So let's see if he does.
For the Saturn V? This guy. Listen to that deep Alabama accent.
This weight dictates the amount of fuel and the numbers of motors.
An American through and through. Ignore this photo of him. Those are just some German friends he made while on gap year in Europe. Look at all his friends. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 friends. A popular man. This Alabama native used metric. In fact, he despised British units. So much so that he designed a rocket during his gap year to fly to England to show them how great the metric system was. The Saturn V was designed, like nearly everything in NASA at the time, with a mixture of both metric and imperial units. Just read the mission reports for Apollo 11 for proof of this. It switches between inches and centimeters constantly. It's a mess. Anyone working with this report would have had to be hyper aware of what unit of measurement they were using. Most of the design and science work was done in metric, before being converted to imperial for the manufacturing and operational staff. One of the most mind-boggling examples of this is the guidance computer. It was coded in metric. Meters and kilograms are the language of science. But to ensure the astronauts could intuitively understand what those calculations meant, the displays inside the lunar module had to be displayed in British imperial units. So, even back then, when computer power was extremely limited, the engineers had to waste precious computational time and power to conversion. And this isn't just a waste of computation power. Errors in conversion have led to an insane number of accidents through the years, some of the most notable being in NASA. In December 1998, the Mars Climate Orbiter took off from Cape Canaveral aboard its Delta II rocket. Over the course of its 9.5-month journey, the orbiter needed to complete trajectory correction maneuvers to bring it into an optimal orbit insertion altitude of 226 kilometers. However, as the time grew closer, calculations showed that the orbiter was entering Mars orbit in a far lower altitude, so low that it was likely going to strike the atmosphere and violently tear itself apart. This is exactly what happened. So,
Okay, moral of the story, pick one, right? You can only imagine how difficult it was going to be to constantly convert back and forth between metric and imperial. Now, like you said, science is based on metric. I remember going through school and not knowing like in depth, but reading metric systems. 1 gram of this, or a meter distance, or a liter of this. You don't switch back and forth. And especially something like NASA, I mean, they should have known better, but I get it why we don't know the metric system enough. So if somebody were to tell you about something in metric and you're used to imperial, you wouldn't intuitively know what the distance or the weight or the volume is. So they needed to convert it for the astronauts to be able to, without thinking too much, just understand what was being asked. But like they said, you run into so many issues if you're converting back and forth that one little measurement off and the entire mission is destroyed, or a multi-billion-dollar rocket and all of its equipment could be destroyed because you just didn't stick with one or the other. I mean, I don't know.
So, what went wrong? The orbiter was coded with metric units, so the thruster control unit was working with the metric unit for impulse, Newton seconds, but the controller was being supplied with pound force seconds, which differs by a conversion factor of 4.45. A massive discrepancy. A discrepancy that destroyed a $328 million project. In 1983, an Air Canada flight departing from Montreal ran out of fuel halfway to its destination in Edmonton. Why? The ground crew knew 22,500 kilograms of fuel was needed for the flight. They, however, needed to calculate how many liters were needed to be pumped. So, they used the density ratio to convert the weight measurement to a volume measurement, but they used the 1.77 density ratio, which was pounds per liter, instead of the correct ratio of 0.8 kilograms per liter, resulting in less than half the required fuel load being pumped aboard.
And that could have ended in absolute tragic disaster.
Liter, resulting in less than half the required fuel load being pumped aboard. Luckily, the pilot managed to glide the plane down to an abandoned airfield, but that little boo-boo of a conversion error could have resulted in a catastrophic loss of life. These are two cautionary tales with disastrous consequences, but it tells you nothing of the silent screams into the void every engineer in the world lets out when they are forced to work with both units. It's just an unnecessary pain in the ass we could all do without. This is the reason we need to choose one measurement system. Mixing units not only is tempting fate with conversion errors, but it costs an untold number of hours for scientists and engineers around the world banging their head against tables, when they could be using that time for something more productive. I could end the video there, but we need to really hammer home why metric units are the superior units. So why is it better? Well, let's start with the fundamental unit of measurement. There are 7 base units of measurement, and with these 7, we can measure everything in the universe. Think of them like the 3 primary colors of light. With these 3 colors, we can create any color in the universe by mixing them in just the correct proportions. We can do the same with these fundamental units of measurement. They are time, length, mass, temperature, electric current, chemical amount, and luminous intensity. With these measures, we can describe our universe. Velocity is a combination of length and time, volume is length cubed, density is volume combined with mass. These measurements are the language of the universe. So, let's see how the imperial system handles a very simple one: length. An inch is a standard unit of measurement for length in the imperial system. Let's imagine a scenario. You are designing a railing for a 1 mile long bridge. You, as a skilled and knowledgeable engineer, know that 2 half-inch bolts are more than enough to secure the railing down. The posts of the railing are 6 feet apart. Alright, how many inches are there in a foot? 12? So that's 72 inches. Every 72 inches we need 2 bolts. Our bridge is 1 mile long. How many feet is that? I don't know off the top of my head, and a quick Google search tells me it's 5,280 feet. What's 12 inches by 5,080? That's 63,360 inches. Divide that by 72, that's 880. So we need to order 1,760 half-inch bolts. That felt cumbersome. Why do I need to remember all these numbers? Because Imperial is a convoluted mess of measurement units invented by people who married their cousins. That's why. Now, let's see how much easier that is in metric. How many millimeters are there in a meter? It's in the name. Milli, 1,000. Now, how many meters are there in a kilometer? Once again, it's in the damn name, kilo, 1,000. Given a measurement in kilometers but want meters, just shift the decimal place over 3 places. No calculation needed, there is no room for error, it's a simply better system. Even within Imperial, you have to constantly convert your units. Ounces to pounds, pounds to imperial tons, which for some reason differs from a metric ton by 1.6%. Again, in metric, there are 1,000 grams in a kilogram and 1,000 kilograms in a ton. In Imperial, there are 16 ounces in a pound and 2,240 pounds in an imperial ton. Why? You aren't even following the same conversion conventions as your other units. This is insanely cumbersome. The chances of conversion errors even within your own damn system is high, never mind having to convert to metric. You know what's even more insane? The word for mass and weight in the imperial system is the same. Why? Because the pound was invented before we knew what gravity was. That's why. We just assumed mass and weight were the same thing, when they aren't. So, we have to specify in Imperial whether we mean pound mass or pound force. I haven't been this confused since I watched Magic Mike. The most ridiculous thing about all of this, every single one of these Imperial measurements are legally defined by the metric system. America is already using the metric system, and most of the population is oblivious to it. Freedom, America, guns, pew pew, hoorah! The foot is legally defined as 0.3048 meters. The pound is legally defined by 0.435 kilograms. Why? Because the metric system is run by the International Bureau of Weights and Measures, a neutral international organization whose sole mission is to create a global language of science, who America is a member of. And they have succeeded in an awe-inspiring way. In 2019, the final metric base unit, the kilogram, stopped being defined by human artifacts and is now, like all other metric units, defined by the laws of physics. In 2019, it ceased being defined by this hunk of metal and began being defined by Planck's constant, which is defined as 6.626 by 10 to the minus 34 kilogram meter squared per second. Of course, to use this as a definition, we need ways to define the meter and second. The meter is defined as the length of the path traveled by light in a vacuum in 1 divided by 299,792,458 of a second. Okay, so how do we define a second? A second is defined by the hyperfine transition frequency, which is the frequency of radiation which will cause an electron to jump from 2 closely spaced low energy states in a cesium-133 atom. Each of the base units are defined like this, using the unchanging language of the universe as its yardstick, or should I say, meter stick. It's a beautiful and inspiring language that transcends the realm of humans, and for that reason alone, you should strive to use the metric system.
Holy crap. There's just too many numbers in all of that. But he's right. He's absolutely right. You have inch, feet, miles, and it doesn't make any sense. It's this decimal points and trying to convert to this and then having two separate definitions of a ton. It can get confusing even if you grew up with the system your entire life, because I don't know what a pound is in ounces. Well, 16 ounces is a pound. That's one of those things that's just kind of drilled into your head. But to convert anything less than that, I'm pulling out a cookbook, I'm grabbing my phone, trying to do a conversion. Whereas with the metric system, like you said, it's all base 10. You just move the decimal point over whichever direction you're going. Same with, distance or speed or weight. It just makes more sense. I really try to kind of not necessarily convert specifically in my head, but I know what a foot is. I know about how big 12 inches is. So if I know certain objects are about 6 inches or about this, a foot or 3 feet, and then I can use the metric system to say, okay, a pencil is however many centimeters. I can't do it off the top of my head right now, but that's kind of what I'm talking about, where I know how long a pencil is. So if I knew how long a pencil was in centimeters, then that would immediately give me an idea of so many centimeters. If it was 1.5 times that big, or 2 times that big, or 5 times that big, I have that picture in my head because I know that one pencil is this many centimeters. I am 5'10". I am 71 inches. I don't know how many meters and centimeters that is, but if I knew, then I could have that number in my head and say, oh, it's about my height, so it's about 1 point whatever meters tall. Because a meter, you have a yard, which is 3 feet. You have a meter, but that's just a little more than 3 feet. It's 3.1 something, I think, feet. So you can't even really do that, because the longer it gets, the more off you'll be. You know what I mean? So like 3 yards is 9 feet, but 3 meters is much longer than 9 feet. It's more like, 3 meters, 12, 14 feet? See? Trying to convert it in my head again. So I think that's what, if we plan on moving to Germany, I'm going to have to get used to the kilometer, the liters, which I kind of know already, 3.8 something liters to a gallon. So, but the other thing that's funny is that we can buy a gallon of milk in the grocery store, and it's by the gallon or half gallon or pint. But then we have soda that you can buy in a 2-liter. So we have both here anyway. A 2-liter Coke or a 1-liter Coke, but you have a gallon of milk. Why don't you have a liter of milk or a gallon of soda? I mean, the other thing that I know is a liter of beer, because those are the big beer steins that you get at Oktoberfest. So I know that, but we have both here, and we use both all the time. Yet people say, well, we're the ones that landed on the moon. Yeah, using the metric system, you moron. So, yeah. 2 different things that confuse a lot of people.
Understanding the language of the universe is a superpower, and there is no better place to become fluent in that language than Brilliant. Did you know that you can measure literally anything? You can even measure what you don't know, which is something I learned through Brilliant's brand new course, Knowledge and Uncertainty. You intuitively know that knowing the weather 30 days from now is more uncertain than the result of a roll of a dice, and a roll of the dice is more uncertain than a coin flip. But why? We can't physically measure them with a ruler or scale. Being able to quantify uncertainty and know how to decrease it with information is an incredibly valuable skill, and this course will teach you everything you need to know. Or, if this course is not your flavor, You could learn math with the people that invented it with their other brand new course, Math History. This journey of problem solving unpacks the first algorithms for finding primes, the original ideas behind imaginary numbers, and how ancient patterns have made their way into modern mathematics. These are just two of many courses on Brilliant that will improve your ability to understand the world around you. If you are naturally curious, want to build your problem-solving skills, or need to develop confidence in your analytical abilities, then get Brilliant Premium to learn something new every day. Brilliant's thought-provoking math, science, and computer science content helps guide you to mastery by taking complex concepts and breaking them up into bite-sized, understandable chunks. You'll start by having fun with their interactive explorations, and over time, you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish. As always, thanks for watching, and thank you to all my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see more from me, the links to my Twitter.
All right, well, that made my head hurt just a little bit, but what do you think? Let me know down in the comments. I already have an idea just based on the majority of my audience is from not the United States, so I already know the answer to this question, but what's your preference? Imperial or metric? And do you know the other one? If you know metric, do you know anything about Imperial? If you know Imperial, do you know anything about metric? I do think that the metric system is, maybe superior is the wrong word, better might even be the wrong word. It is different, but I do believe that it is easier to use because there isn't all the conversion factors of 1 point whatever, 0.5 whatever, to figure out length, weight, volume, whatever you're talking about. I do wish we would use the metric system more. A base 10 system is so much easier to understand than trying to remember what seems to be just random numbers thrown together to make another one. So let me know your comments down below. I would love to read them. And thank you so much for watching today's video. And as always, until next time, catch you later.